Yeah, but so there's still, I mean, it's crazy too because there's still more happening in court. Like, I mean, everything is still active even though we're not hearing about it as much anymore. And the people may be fatigued like we talked about prior to.
Sean Diddy Combs was denied bail for the third time. A federal judge saying that the government had proven by clear and convincing evidence that there were no conditions of release that would ensure the safety of the community.
Diddy Combs, the renowned musician who became the contentious defendant, is at the core of a remarkable legal storm that doesn't seem to be abating. The third unsuccessful attempt to obtain bail has merely made the scrutiny more intense, involving his case, causing many to am curious how one of the strongest entertainment figures wind up staring, reducing the likelihood of spending the remaining years of his life in prison. The evidence supports the allegations, which are alarming, growing and more important than ever. However, what's really fascinating is the unrelenting wave of new lawsuits, charges, and proof that appear to surface daily. Hold on tight, this tale is far from finished.
Sean Combs get another shot with Judge Subramanian? Or what will be his likelihood of success in a different court? Because there's currently a pending appeal at the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. So to get into all of this, I want to bring on former federal prosecutor Nima Rahmani, friend of the show. Nima, thanks so much for coming on. First, before we even get into what he can do next, were you surprised?
Let's begin with the most recent revelation. Judge of Development Arun Superman's choice not to include D-bail in the third moment. This is not your typical illegal setback, is a horrible blow for the defense team of Diddy, who had suggested what they said was a picture of an airtight bail packet for $50 million bond, a magnificent residence on the Upper East Side round of Manhattan, private security with no access to phones, the internet, and a rigorously controlled list of guests who have been pre-approved. It seems like a stronghold of accountability, correct? But Judge Superior was not persuaded by his 5-page decision. The judge brought attention to a concerning behavior style that made it you can't rely on the hip-hop mobile on outside the court. It is discovered that the administration has demonstrated by unambiguous and clear proof that there is no condition or a number of circumstances will reasonably ensure the security of the Rhoda community. So why wouldn't the judge believed? But the list of explanations, as long as the first is damning, there is the now famous security footage from 2016, which CNN previously discovered. The blurry hotel hallway footage this year depicts Diddy allegedly kicking and grabbing and pulling his ex-girlfriend Cassie along Ventura in a furious dispute. This is not rumors, rather it is visual evidence that has been unattainable for Diddy's legal representatives. Manon used the mentioned film to spin Judge Sub proof of Diddy's tendency to violence as a major consideration in his choice to lock up the music mogul, and add to that the terrifying texts from Diddy to Cassie in the hours following the instance in which she allegedly wrote, "I having a puffy lip and a black eye. We're tired of believing that this is acceptable." The video, along with those messages, depict a scene that is challenging for even the best knowledgeable defense lawyer to dispute.
At the courthouse in Lower Manhattan, judge ordering the prosecution to turn over its findings from a jail cell raid, Diddy's jail cell, just yesterday. What were the contents of those raids?
Well, apparently, according to the defense, they're legal documents. The government saying no, on the contrary, they're just some handwritten notes and a calendar.
However, it doesn't end there. Prosecutors claim Diddy has keeping up the intimidation and manipulation even from behind bars. Witnesses he has reportedly been employing three-way unauthorized messaging services are called, and even the phone numbers of other prisoners to speak with important people involved in the case. Consider the foolishness of sitting and examined is the Federal Detention Center for obstructing and continuing to find methods. Prosecutors claim to have violated the rules. That his audacity proves he's a threat to the neighborhood and a flight superin. The risk judge concurred, saying in his decree that Diddy's actions from his detention cell is compelling proof that he would be significantly more dangerous if released.
That's it. If it is privilege, of course they won't. But if it really is what the prosecution says, that has nothing to do with the case, or even worse, it's actually evidence of witness tampering, because we all know the attorney-client privilege, there's a crime fraud exception. You can't use your lawyer to perpetuate a future or continuing fraud or crime. So if the documents are what the government says they are, they're going to get them again. And again, it's just going to be a matter of days because I don't expect it.
And after that, the question of trust or lack of it consequently. The judge also targeted the legal team for Diddy as accusing them of giving the court false information. For instance, they asserted that Diddy's legal pads in his detention cell were not correctly labeled when they weren't actually labeled at all. This could appear to be a small detail, but the stakes are tremendous. The realm of federal litigation credibility is everything overtly submenan. Questioned whether Diddy's lawyers could be relied upon to uphold the rigorous terms of his suggested bail package. This mistrust, in addition to Diddy's supposed track record of breaking the law, made the judge's bail ruling explicitly rejected.
They probably didn't see these notes, and they never will.
But if you're Diddy, don't you want your notes back?
Yeah.
If you've spent so many hours gathering evidence for your side or strategy or whatever, for me, I'd be oh no, please don't destroy, please return.
Let's now discuss the overwhelming amount of new accusations that have surfaced since it appears that Diddy's arrest was lawful. The floodgates have been triggered by issues with one accuser after another comes forward. The timeline is used to tell their stories. It started in November 2023 and is dazzling. During the time of Cassie's bombshell lawsuit claiming Diddy had endured years of emotional mistreatment, both physical and psychological, the suit alone was startling enough. However, what transpired was nothing less than several women's tidal waves in a matter of weeks submitted identical claims one after the other, more terrifying than the previous.
Not surprised with the decision. I'm surprised that Judge Subramanian entertained it. He held a 2-hour hearing, which we were covering live, and he issued a 5-page written order. Most other judges, including the 2 previous judges, to consider this issue, summarily denied the bail motion. I think a lot of it stems from Judge Subramanian being a newer judge. This is a Biden appointee.
One in particular, a woman is involved in a troubling issue, recognized as Jane Doe, who claims her was forced to accompany Diddy on his trip. Using false pretenses together with his associates, her lawsuit claims that she was exposed to terrifying situations, such as being stuck in unfamiliar places, and compelled to endure that made her feel helpless once more. Liza Gardner, the accuser, stated that she was only a teenager when she initially met Diddy at a function for the industry. Her lawsuit in the early 1990s edges that he exploited her while she wasn't leaving her while intoxicated, PTSD for several years.
Did in fact occur, their argument is more than likely going to be that this activity was consensual, that this person was a willing participant, and not only that, but that these individuals assumed the risk of being present at those parties, of engaging and voluntarily engaging in the conduct and being in those spaces, consuming alcohol and things of that nature.
Lord Jones, a former co-worker of Diddy who had brought his own lawsuit, Jones claims this year that he was compelled to take part in and observe really disturbing behaviors while collaborating closely with Diddy on his assertions include feeling under pressure to buy people for personal gatherings and being continuously observed by Diddy's group. Jones even asserts that he has video proof of these occurrences that can turn out to be, if his case gets to trial, it might be a game changer. What's remarkable about these cases is how they appear to support one another, creating a story of systemic abuse, control, and manipulation. According to prosecutors, these stories aren't singular events, rather a component of a wider pattern that extends decades or where the charges originate, into play by the claimed activities of framing as a component of an illegal enterprise. Prosecutors are able to make connections between events that don't seem to be connected, but create a cohesion that is difficult to break.
Monitoring another push to free Sean Diddy Combs tonight, with his legal team citing new evidence in an updated bail proposal. The music mogul agreeing to around-the-clock security and cutting out contact with basically anyone but his legal team to get out of jail ahead of his trial scheduled for May of next year for charges he allegedly coerced and abused women for years.
The worst part is that this is all taking place even though Diddy is seated in one of the most infamous federal prisons in the nation. The Metropolitan Brooklyn's detention center has been, former officials have called it hell on earth. Both prisoners and legal professionals overworked, understaffed, and afflicted with claims of wrongdoing at the establishment is not at all like the opulent Diddy's lawyers have a certain way of living claimed that the situation is so bad they are impeding his capacity to become ready. They have referenced everything for the trial, from restricted availability of legal papers to the absence of essential facilities as causes for he ought to be freed on bond. But the Judge Subban's decision was unaffected by recognized the difficulties of getting ready for a difficult trial, while incarcerated yet finally came to the conclusion that Diddy's the appropriate behavior is maintained imprisonment.
Everybody familiar with the old Houdini? So what Diddy's lawyers are trying to do is pull a Houdini. They're trying to say that the evidence that they have is different. Well, it's not different. The video that the entire world has seen is not going to go away. The fact that he had parties that were freak-offs is not going away. So it's just a question of whether or not Diddy is...
Everyone is aware of the old Houdini. What are Diddy's solicitors attempting to pull an Houdini? They're attempting to claim that the proof that they're different, but they're not distinct from the video that the world has witnessed is not going away. The reality that his gatherings were, it's just that weird goes aren't going away. A query about whether Diddy is a how does Diddy feel about the MDC? According to case-related materials, a guy who finds it difficult to adjust to his new, the fancy suits are the reality gone. Red carpets and private planes, Diddy instead spends his time in a confined space exposed to the same severe circumstances as each other report implies that he has been assigned to a particular housing unit that is separate from the overall populace for his own security. But even his presence alone has produced a commotion between staff and prisoners alike. Some consider him a star who has at last being held responsible, but others see his status as a target and the circumstances that the MDC has received a lot of criticism for, according to reports. An inmate in June wounded in a fight, emphasizing the facts when there are problems with self-inflicted deaths from violence, and other incidents have caused problems for the institution. Voicing doubts on its ability to safely house well-known inmates, Diddy's solicitors have stated worries about his health, but thus far D has heard their entreaties, for he is currently incarcerated awaiting his May is the trial date, 2025.
So there's a few things going on. First is the privilege issue. The judge will decide whether the documents are privileged or not. If they're not, they're going to go to the government. If the documents are not only not privileged, but they're evidence of witness tampering, then a few things can happen, all of which are bad for Sean Diddy Combs. First, of course, he did face obstruction of justice charges in a superseding indictment.
Perhaps the most startling aspect of the whole saga is how swiftly intensified in under a year Diddy has ceased to be a renowned cultural emblem for one of the most closely examined numbers from the litigation in recent memory. The evidence that was disclosed led to criminal charges. Everything is leading up to a trial that claims to be among the most genuine in contemporary history, but for all that there is drama and conjecture. But one question remains. Greater than any of these claims are accurate. But how long did it take? I'm eager for the truth to surface as we go on to the following chapter in this developing narrative, which we will examine the accusations made against Christian, Diddy's son. How did these fresh accusations fit into communications into the overall story? And what does it discuss as the power culture and privilege that has been permitted to flourish? Keep an eye on developments in the entertainment sector. The narrative is only beginning.
Agree. And the risk of flight was always going to be a tough argument for the government, because obviously Combs voluntarily came to New York. He surrendered his passports through his lawyer. He could have fled after the March raids of his Miami and Los Angeles homes, but he didn't. He has access to 2 private jets. I think it was a tougher argument. I know the government made the argument, but clearly the best argument was the dangerousness and the witness tampering. They had much more evidence.
Like the storm encircling Shad Diddy communications couldn't have been more intensive. Christian Communications' son has now been dragged entering the tumult with accusations that are both startling and unsettling. The charges against Christian in detail have recently left the public in a lawsuit startled and posed troubling queries regarding the surroundings of this a case of a young communicator's family, a man carrying on his father's legacy? Or is it something more sinister? And if so, how does this was part of the larger story of privilege of power and claimed in misconduct that appears to have permeated? Let's explore the realm of entertainment, the specifics.
Separated from the general population, right? He's with, or was with, Sam Bankman-Fried at least, and the irony there is that someone who was granted bail try to tamper with witnesses. So the judge revoked his bail. So that just goes to show how these federal judges feel about witness tampering before trial.
The accusations made against Christian Communications are based on an event that occurred in late December, according to reports. 2022, according per the claim brought by a former crew member, Giorgi Mark, was on what was the yacht that Shan Communications chartered. Intended to be a family-friendly environment, the excursion swiftly descended into anything far more problematic about Mark claims Christian, who was 25 at the time, turned hostile and unsuitable. One night in particular, the suit claims that he coerced her into eating she felt uneasy with his cocktails. Conduct, and ultimately attempted to corner. It's important to note that Omar has supplied what she claims to be audio proof of documented Christian behavior when the alleged incident occurred in an improvised studio on the boat. In one especially remarkable scene that was recorded on Omar Kai's recording is said to be heard inquiring as to if the beverage she was being urged to eat had been manipulated, to which Christian purportedly responded, "Take the shot." What is even more disturbing about this scenario is the situation where it is purported to Omar K. claimed that the yacht had unfolded was not at all the wholesome setting that it was touted as. Rather, she characterizes it as a scene full of dubious actions while parties and a setting that appeared to make it harder to distinguish between work. And something far less polished about her. Omar K. describes a lawsuit as young man who felt more confident after environment, possibly by the father's influence, went beyond bounds in ways that shook her, and she also claims that she is traumatized, and following the incident, she reported Christian conduct with the yacht captain only to encounter incredulity and even outcry against the captain. She says attacked her in retaliation during the months. It eventually led to her Christian Communications termination in May 2023, has refuted these claims with his legal team rejecting the allegations as opportunistic and fake. Yet the lawsuit doesn't end with Christian. Adds Sean Chams to the list of defendants. Accused him of fostering an atmosphere that made such behavior possible through chartering the yacht and purportedly not doing. Guarantee the professionalism and safety of Sean's surgeries are being held legally responsible for the events that took place. Even further, the lawsuit accusing him of helping his son by creating a culture in which boundaries were inappropriate and hazy behavior was normalized.
Wait a minute. Say that again. Say that again. Back up. You're saying that there's tapes and they're being shopped?
Yes, there have been people already shopping.
We've heard about the tapes, but
yes.
The shopping thing is...
Yes, there already have been tapes leaking around Hollywood, being shopped around to individuals in Hollywood. But one particular person contacted me to shop a particular video they were in possession of.
What's especially notable about in this instance, it reflects some of the more general accusations against Shan Communications. The federal indictment he's facing prosecutors are presently facing claimed that Sean developed in setting where manipulation of control occurs and improper conduct weren't just accepted but deliberately planned. The similarities between the charges are startling and directed at the father and son. They pose awkward queries regarding the impact of privilege and power. Has Christian on purpose or model of mistakenly adopted behaviors by his dad, or is he just acting caught up in Shah's much-discussed fallout, more extensive court cases? Although Christian's, the case is still in its early phases, already garnered a lot of media attention interest, partly due to his family's prominent status. But additionally, the accusations against him appear to be part of a bigger pattern of conduct that detractors claim has the entertainment sector for many years. This is not merely a tale of one family, it's a tale of a whole system that has too long permitted strong people to work with impunity.
Everyone keeps saying to me, like, how did you keep, why did you keep going? Why were you there? I'm like, it literally is around me. If I don't stay at home, this is the atmosphere I'm in. Like, I have no choice.
An improvement in keeping some of these people responsible for the overwhelming number of charges that persist in showing evidence that the issue has not yet been fixed. The entertainment industry has historically been chastised for its extravagant culture, concealment, unbridled authority, and the legal issues facing the Com family appear to summarize each of these problems in a single case of explosives.
He is very, very dominant. Like, he wants to control the situation. He wants to control his inner circle. He wants to make everyone have a good time and enjoy his parties. And so, it is scary because you think, this person or possibly his social network or the people he's around could make or break your career.
What's very spooky with the accusations made against Sean and the feeling of coordination is Christian. The preparation that appears to flow through in Cian's case, the prosecutors have explained a complex system that was created to keep things under control and stifle criticism, encompassing everything from hiding agreements to purported actions of similar to Omar Kai's intimidation. Christian is being sued for allegedly, in addition to being mistreated, she also quieted when she attempted to raise the captain's purported reprisal against she is a clear reminder of how it might be challenging for people to contest strong systems, in particular when those systems have the support of enormous riches and power.